Welcome to Simply Cyber Live, where we dive deep into the digital abyss of cybersecurity, illuminating the pathways of modern defense. Today, I am privileged to be able to introduce you with Debbie Gordon, the CEO of CloudRange, and an absolute delightful professional. She is going to be bringing an unbelievable solution to market around innovating how tabletop exercises, professional development, and the efficacy of security operation teams are done in the modern age. If you've ever wondered about the vanguard of cyber defense, you're in for an absolute treat. So plug it and power up, because this is a conversation you won't want to miss. All right, we're joined by Debbie Gordon, founder and CEO of CloudRange, the live-fire cyber attack simulation training platform. Debbie, you have a rich history as a technology entrepreneur. Can you share the story of how you moved from IT asset management and e-commerce into the world of cybersecurity simulation training?
Sure. Thanks for having me. I started my career 25, almost 30 years ago, actually, now that I'm counting, in the technical education space. So it's kind of come full circle. So my last company was an IT asset management company. We built a pretty significant sized channel program, and it's no coincidence that a lot of our partners and strategics are the same ones that they are today. So I was always very familiar with the tech talent shortage throughout my career, and then specifically around the cyber talent shortage. And as you've probably heard, it's pretty serious. There are upwards of about 4 million open jobs around the world. About 700,000 of them are assumed to be in the United States. And people kept talking about the problem. And there are a lot of initiatives in higher education to address the problem, but the talent shortage is also something that shows up in the form of an experience shortage, because people might have certifications or certain types of training, but it doesn't mean that they're actually good at something or know what to do and when to do it and why to do it. And so I saw a big opportunity to be able to use simulation to accelerate how people perform in cybersecurity once they have a job, but then also to help create net new workforce to fill that gap.
Yeah, and practical skills do definitely reign supreme right now. I've seen many people with, college degrees and certs and, still kind of battling to get that entry-level job. Now, I know CloudRange was founded on the premise that simulation training is integral into cybersecurity, very similar to fields like medicine and aviation. Can you walk us through how this philosophy has influenced the way you've built your services?
Sure. So we can't wait for people to get experience organically. It's not safe. It takes time, and you certainly don't want for people to have to defend against cyber attacks in real life to see if they know what they're doing or not. And so we developed a simulation platform, which is referred to as a cyber range. And the term cyber range can mean a lot of things. But in this case, with CloudRange, we develop really replicas of our customers' network and environments. And so think about it like a flight simulator where defenders get to practice detecting, investigating, responding, and remediating attacks in a very familiar environment, but it's just a safe one. It's not their own. It looks and feels like their own. It has the same tool sets they have. So, whatever SIMs or EDRs or firewalls they're using or SOAR, all of those tool sets are also in the simulation so that they're in a familiar area and can create muscle memory and situational awareness around cyber attacks.
Let's talk about the live-fire IT and OT industrial incident response and threat hunting exercises. What lessons from the front lines can you share with us regarding the importance of robust plans, timely detection, and effective response?
Well, first and foremost, especially with OT, we developed a virtualized OT cyber range, and nobody's done that before. So what we found with that is there's even a greater need for simulation training on the OT side. But what the biggest challenge is with that is that organizations are still relatively immature in how they think about cybersecurity from an OT perspective, because OT says it's IT's job, IT says it's OT's job, and therefore sometimes it becomes nobody's job. And so first and foremost, when we're training companies and using our simulation platform, the first step is to actually get those people in the same room communicating, because we've worked with companies that, let's say we depend on their power, for example. The OT and the IT folks have never even met in some cases. And that's the first step. And then organizationally, there has to be some structuring of whose responsibility is it, and collaboration, and then comes the technology and the processes. But first, it's an organizational shift that has to happen.
Just listening to you talk and kind of digesting what you're saying, it almost sounds like you've built the capability to quickly deploy like a tabletop exercise that's ratcheted way up beyond the boring PowerPoint and the executives in their phones, and allows that hands-on keyboard experience in addition to working through an incident response plan and seeing where the gaps truly are. Is that a fair?
Absolutely right. Yeah. Executive crisis management and tabletop exercises are very common. One of the problems with those is that people go into them maybe a couple of times a year, and they come out of it thinking, oh gosh, we really didn't know what to do, and now we know what to do. But then there's nothing actionable that they can practice on. And it's a good experience and it checks a box, but there's nothing really helping them understand what's happening before that breach occurred. And so when we're working with our CyberRange, we actually do a simulation of what happened before that. So if you think of a traditional tabletop exercise, something already happened. So there's, the FBI comes in and they've said, oh, we just found 100,000 of your customers' records on the dark web. What do you do? But what happened before that? And so with our CyberRange, we're able to simulate the alerts in the SOC, the investigation process, all of the things that go into detection and response up until the time that it becomes a situation that the executives have to hear about. And so we call that Tabletop 2.0 because it's really the prequel to a traditional tabletop exercise, and it tells the whole story. So we often work with companies where they're doing their traditional tabletop exercise, and then we create a range simulation, a CloudRange simulation for that about with the technical folks, so everyone can appreciate each other's contribution to the whole incident response plan.
Yeah, I love that, especially because, sometimes with IT, they'll just say, oh, we'd restore from backups. Like that's a magic button you just hit, and it takes no time at all. So I love just a follow-up question, because I'm really enjoying this. You mentioned replica of the environment. Does the CloudRange offer the ability to kind of have specific scenarios, like, oh, it's a ransomware incident, or it's, just some kind of malware deployed somewhere? Maybe it's this particular threat actor. Can you kind of, I guess, go into the details?
Sure. So we have a whole library of scenarios, and those scenarios are being developed. We release 3 to 5 per month. They are both IT and OT scenarios, some both. And we develop them from a few sources. So number one, obviously what customers ask for if they want a specific scenario that they want to practice on. We use the MITRE ATT&CK framework and the MITRE ATT&CK framework for ICS to make sure that we're covering all the different combinations of TTPs in the frameworks. And we develop scenarios on that. And then we're also using threat intelligence sources, for example, CISA advisories, and we're turning those into actual simulations. So rather than just reading about an advisory, we're actually turning that into an actual simulation of an attack and allowing our customers to be able to practice on something that has been detected out in the wild.
Oh, that's brilliant. That really is brilliant. It takes it from almost a passive experience of consuming it and sharing it as, here's some IOCs or here's what's going on, and making it actionable. I love that. Way to go. Very cool.
Thanks.
So you have a new product coming out that introduces an interesting new angle to cybersecurity around scoring technical and soft skills against various cybersecurity frameworks. Can you share some more about what inspired this concept and a little bit about how it works?
Sure. So one of my favorite quotes is from W. Edwards Deming, and it's without data, you're just a person with an opinion. And so it was our number one goal is to have data. It's one thing to go through a simulation exercise and think, oh yeah, we learned a lot. That was great. It strengthened our muscles a little bit. But we needed data to actually be able to show how teams were progressing. So if you think about all the different attack scenarios you mentioned, a minute ago, there's, you might have a ransomware attack or a denial of service attack of some sort, or a supply chain attack. Those are very different. And so we set out to figure out how to measure performance from one to another. It's kind of like one month you're playing baseball, one month you're playing volleyball, one month you're playing basketball. How do you measure if you're getting better at sports, right?
Yeah.
But we were able to do that. So we developed a metric system where we're able to look at the knowledge, skills, and abilities of each person on a team and the team as a whole using the NIST framework for cybersecurity education, and combined with the MITRE ATT&CK framework, as well as some various weighting based on industry, company size, actual company, and be able to, now we can look at a score of what is the vulnerability in your company associated with the lack of skills people have. And we don't do that to show weakness. We do it for showing areas for improvement. So let's say, Jerry, you have half the skills that you need to perform your job. The opportunity is to get you those other half so that you can do your job perfectly. And so the gap in the skills that people have is really a vulnerability, no different than an open seat in the security operations center is. And so our performance portal is where everything is measured, and security leaders can see and share with their board how their teams are progressing and really closing that gap.
You know, as a CISO, one of the things that I'm really resonating here as we're talking is like, if I send one of my engineers to SANS, it's like $8,000. And when they come back a week later, I don't know if they're actually any better at helping me secure my business.
Exactly.
So I like, to invest in my people and them to be able to execute scenarios in, a replica of my environment on scenarios that they're most likely to see. And then for me to be able to measure it and then report up on where those dollars are going and what the value is to the business. I think that that's fantastic. I'm like, I just met you, but I'm loving this product. I don't know where you find the time, honestly, because there's another product and I don't have a ton of information on it. I heard about it just recently called Range 365. Could you elaborate a little bit on that product?
Yeah, we're so excited about Range 365. So historically, CyberRange is, used to be clunky, hardware heavy, maintenance heavy, administration heavy tool sets. And CloudRange was able to turn that into a completely virtualized environment. Our service, I would say our core product is FlexRange, where organizations have a subscription to our content library, all the different attack scenarios, and they go through these simulations every month, each one being a different attack scenario. And what we found was that originally, customers didn't want to have their own CyberRange. They wanted to use it. They didn't want, it's like you want to rent a car. You don't want to buy a whole car. You just want to use it sometimes. And especially with the talent shortage, there isn't anyone in a lot of organizations to maintain, build and or maintain a CyberRange. But now that our customers all over the world have been using FlexRange and doing these full service simulations with us, now they're seeing the value of actually having their own CyberRange, which is what Range 365 is. So Range 365 is a dedicated custom CyberRange that's all virtual, and there's no administration required, no maintenance. We handle it all. And so it's really the best of both worlds. And we're seeing most of our customers starting to adopt that. And it's also great because not only can they do training on it, but they're bringing in other teams to use it as a sandbox to test products, to do POCs with new products that they may be considering for their security stack.
That's a really, additional, I guess, bonus. It's like a force multiplier of value. So you've mentioned a couple times here that people are the most important asset in reducing cyber risk. And I know a lot of people in my audience are going to be really interested in your thoughts on this. So in your extensive experience, what are some of the most crucial skills and really mindsets that individuals need to develop to be effective in defending against cyber threats?
Besides the technical skills that are needed, those are kind of the given, but soft skills, communication, collaboration, creativity, confidence, lots of C's. And that is truly the weakest link in the chain. When COVID happened and everyone went home, we were seeing these SOC analysts not knowing how to communicate. They were used to sit in the same room as each other, and now they're sitting in their homes and they have to be forced to communicate with each other. And the speed at which an incident can be detected and responded to is improved significantly with proper communication and collaboration. And conversely, without it, very, very bad things can happen. And so security leaders, most security leaders didn't really sign up to be managers of people and, help inspire your team to have great soft skills. It's just not something that's so super common in cybersecurity. And but what they're realizing now is it is absolutely imperative that people have these skills, and doing simulations helps us get people out of their comfort zone, but into a new comfort zone of communicating and collaborating and watching and being able to see what the fruits of that labor is, and how an incident can be sped up significantly, or an incident response can be sped up significantly by that communication and collaboration.
Yeah, and it really illustrates some of the implicit value of doing tabletop exercises. Yes, you get to work through the incident response plan and make sure that people are on the same page, but you are building up those analysts and those more tech-focused people to be part of the overall solution. So I'm curious, Debbie, what has been the feedback from clients who have undergone your simulation training? Like, are there any interesting success stories that stand out?
Well, we call it our North Star KPI, key performance indicator, is customer renewals. And we have 99% customer renewal year over year, and growth within our customers too. So that right there is our indicator that we're doing something right. So we're the nice thing about this for us is that, and for our customers, is that we're constantly developing new content. So you're never finished. There's always more scenarios. There's always more types of attacks. There's different TTPs. And so people have to stay fresh. So it's very sticky in that sense. And then especially as teams are growing, companies are bringing more people in. And so they have to go through the training. So it's a constant. And first and foremost, we make security leaders' lives easier. We make their jobs easier, because kind of going back to what I said a few minutes ago, is a lot of security leaders didn't really sign up to be, incredible managers of people. They often came up from the security side, not always, but sometimes. And so by doing these simulations and measuring people on not only their technical proficiencies, but their soft skills, the leaders are able to enjoy that growth of their team without necessarily having to do as much as they would otherwise.
Yeah, more of the good stuff, less of the bad stuff.
Totally.
So CloudRange has been recognized for its importance to business, innovation, and ease of use based on everything that I've heard today. It's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit more about how your cybersecurity readiness solutions like Range 365 and LiveRange, how they deliver value to the clients?
Sure. So we're able to show a decrease in detection and response time. So, if you think about mean time to detect or mean time to respond, this is actual time to detect and actual time to respond against benchmarks that we have determined based on many customers and how quickly teams go through the different attack scenarios. And so it is a very measurable outcome on the detection and response side. And then on the skills side, which I talked a little bit about before, we're able to show what knowledge, skills, and abilities, I'll call those competencies, what competencies individuals have and the team has, and over time, how those are improving. And those have obviously a direct correlation with a reduction of exposure and risk.
That's awesome. And I imagine you can rerun the same scenario, in a month and have kind of trending data on efficacy of the team as well.
Well, you'd think, except that if we do it again, they already know what's going to happen. And so there is a fine line between creating something that is equally difficult and similar enough, but where they don't already know how to go about it. And so when we look at measuring, earlier when I was talking about, playing different sports, measuring how a team performs in the same scenario is not as effective as changing the scenario a little bit, but measuring the same competencies within that, but it's just a little bit different. So we're still able to test how well they do something, but it's not going to be the exact same thing.
So if someone is listening to this and they're like, okay, obviously I'm sold. I got to get some of this for my organization. What should they do? Do they just go to cloudrange.com and sign up, or what's the process?
So our website is cloudrangecyber.com. And we normally work with customers and do what we call a single mission. So that's where you get 5 to 10 folks from your team into an actual simulation. And it's not a dumbed down version. It's the real deal. And we provide a whole report and assessment and provide that back to you. And, a lot of securities are using that for budgeting for an annual program. But it's really what I love about where this has come over the last 5 years is that it's not just a nice to have anymore. Security leaders know they have to adopt this. It's kind of like when the flight simulator was invented, you didn't not use a flight simulator, right? It's there. And same thing with CloudRange. It's there. It didn't used to be. And now that it's there, it's something that is really, it's a necessary, not just a nice to have anymore. And boards of directors are seeing it. Security leaders and C-suites are seeing it. And so I just encourage everyone to, give it a try. And we also have the teams give feedback. So when your team comes on and does a simulation, they're the ones who are giving feedback at the end to say, yes, here's what I learned. Here's how it made me better. Here's the types of things that I would like to do in the future to learn more about, to become stronger in different types of scenarios. And so it's not just the report that comes out, it's the feedback that comes from your team. And then that helps provide some fodder for a program in the future.
Absolutely. And I could see stakeholder buy-in from the actual SOC team themselves, the engineers there, because it's not just being pushed down by management.
They love it.
Yeah.
And it's fun for them because it's safe and they can break things and they won't actually break anything. We can reset it in a matter of seconds. Yeah. And we encourage them to make mistakes. If they're not sure, it's okay. They have to learn that way. But we see that a lot of people don't perform in cybersecurity because they're scared to make a mistake. Mm-hmm. So they know a lot more than they might act like they do, but they're afraid to perform. So when they can test this out on a simulation in a safe environment, it helps them immediately be better.
As a follow-up from an implementation question we talked about earlier, what if your organization is matrixed in the SOC with a MSSP or fully MSSP, but the business wants to test their business's response capability? How does that work with CloudRange?
So many of our customers have tier 1, tier 2 MSSPs. Couple of ways. So we also have MSSPs as customers. So their actual teams are using it. But a lot of our customers who use MSSPs are bringing the MSSP into the exercise too, and vice versa. MSSPs are bringing their customers into the exercises because there's a handoff. Mm-hmm. And those two parties don't always know whose responsibility it is when there's a handoff. If are they doing just the tier 1? Are they doing tier 2? And so working together with a customer and their MSSP, a lot of them are doing it to test MSSPs. So we have a customer who bought another company and it came with an MSSP, and they are using our simulations to determine if they actually want to keep that MSSP on.
Another great use case, it goes way beyond kind of just like what the surface level use case is. I love it. So, Debbie, you're a frequent speaker on cybersecurity readiness and simulation training. So, what's one message you'd like to leave with our audience today?
People need a plan, and with cyber talent being at such a shortage, retention is just as hard, if not harder. And so every security leader needs to think about how they're going to retain people. And it's not just about paying them more culture. It's giving them a plan, giving them a career path. So, we develop learning plans for our customers' employees in cyber. So if they're, say, an entry-level SOC analyst, they have a plan moving forward for what they're going to do next, and it gives them a vision, and they're much more likely to stick around if they know the company's going to invest in them. So invest in people. They are the most important asset in the security stack. Even with AI, even with all these tools, it's never going to go away.
Absolutely. We've been speaking with Debbie Gordon, founder and CEO at CloudRange, CloudRangeCyber.com to get more information. Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you so much.
Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed that content. Keep the cybersecurity train going by connecting with the other Simply Cyber community resources. We have the Discord server that's lively and always keeps the conversation going. You can connect with me directly on LinkedIn. And also every single weekday morning on the Simply Cyber channel, we're doing live daily cyber threat briefings, 8 a.m. Eastern time, as well as Thursday at 4:30 p.m. We're doing live stream interviews with industry experts, and we produce videos that we push out every Wednesday morning. I'm Jerry from Simply Cyber. I hope you enjoyed the content, and we'll see you in the next one.